Hello everyone, and thank you for clicking on the Literacy Volunteers of Harrison County YouTube channel. We're a nonprofit United Way agency, and we would love to share these videos with you, and you can use them for educational purposes. Today our video is on fatigue, and fatigue is a constant tiredness that is constant and limiting in the fact that it limits your ability to function on a normal level. So we want to look at some of the general causes of fatigue, and then we'll delve into a little bit more of some specific disorders that have to do with fatigue. So one of the causes is not enough sleep. That makes sense. You would be tired if you don't get enough sleep. Adults need between 7 and 8 hours of sleep every night. Children, especially young children, need almost up to 10, 11, 12 hours of sleep because they're still growing and their minds are still forming. Sleep apnea, and what sleep apnea is when you're sleeping, there are brief periods of time when you will stop breathing, and you may not even know it. It may just occur, and then you'll start breathing again, and you don't know it while you're asleep. So you usually have to go and have a sleep study. It's where they will put you in a room and watch you sleep and monitor your breathing. And then they suggest some things. If you're too heavy, you might need to lose weight because that weight's pushing on your diaphragm while you're trying to sleep and sometimes help you lose your breath. Or quit smoking. Smoking is not good for you. Sometimes they will give you what's called a CPAP machine, which puts oxygen, fresh oxygen into your system to help keep you from stopping your breathing during your sleep. Number 3 is not enough fuel. If you eat too little, or if you eat the wrong foods, if your diet is totally sugar or totally fat or things that are bad for you, that can cause fatigue because what you're doing is you're not keeping your blood sugar in range. Blood sugar is spiked by eating regular sugar, glucose. And so if it goes real high and you eat a candy bar, in a little bit you're going to crash because your blood sugar is going to drop. And when you crash, usually you can get that fatigued feeling. Anemia. Anemia is where you have a lack of red blood cells in your blood. Red blood cells carry the oxygen in your blood, the hemoglobin that helps carry the oxygen. And so usually you can be anemic if you have an iron deficiency. You can always take an oral iron supplement, or you can eat foods that are rich in iron like lean meat, liver, shellfish, beans, enriched cereals. A lot of them will say that they're high in iron if you look at this on your cereal box. And that will help to keep you from becoming anemic. Depression can also cause fatigue, and depression is an emotional disorder with physical symptoms. And we're going to look at this here in a little bit. Hypothyroidism, right? Hypo means low, hyper is high, hypo is low. So your thyroid, which is a gland that's here in your neck, it controls your metabolism, or how well you process food and how well that you can get energy from the food. So when it's underactive, low, you may feel sluggish, and you can also gain weight, or you can just have different problems. And you can have that checked at the doctor by taking just a blood test where they will check for your thyroid levels and then your hormone levels, and then they can tell if that's what's wrong with you. Caffeine overload. A lot of people drink caffeine to stay awake, but can also have the opposite effect. Too much caffeine will increase your heart rate, your blood pressure, and give you jitteriness. But some people, it will give them the opposite. It'll cause fatigue. And so what you need to do is cut back on your coffee, tea, soda, energy drinks, any of those things that have a lot of caffeine in them. A hidden UTI, and I put that UTI stands for urinary tract infection. A urinary tract infection presents as the urgency to urinate or a burning pain when you urinate, and that can sometimes cause fatigue, and that may be the only sign that you have a UTI. And then they can give you antibiotics to help deal with that so that you would recover from that. Diabetes, which is an abnormally high levels of sugar that remain in the bloodstream. And instead of going into your cells, they stay here in your bloodstream, and it can't be converted to energy. You can't use it. If all of that insulin is just floating around in your bloodstream and it doesn't go into your cells, or that sugar rather, doesn't go into your cells, then you can't use it for energy. And so the result, your body runs out of steam despite having enough to eat. You may have eaten, but you can't use that food. So you have to have changes in diet, exercise, and then insulin. In some cases, diabetics will have to take insulin shots or have an insulin pump if it's really bad to keep your insulin levels correct. Dehydration, so you need to drink enough water throughout the day. You want your urine to be very light in color. If it's dark, usually you could be dehydrated. And then when you're exercising, they recommend that you drink about 2 cups, which is 16 ounces of water per hour when you're exercising, just to keep you from becoming dehydrated. Or when you're working outside, if you're mowing the lawn or something like that. Heart disease, when you're fatigued during a normal everyday activities, you just get up and you run the vacuum cleaner and you're fatigued, or you go to the store and you're fatigued. When it's difficult to finish tasks, you start something but you get so tired that you can't complete it, it could be an indicator of heart disease. So you need to do some lifestyle changes, maybe medicine or therapeutic procedures. Shift work. A lot of people around here will work shift work, either, like noon to midnight, midnight to 7, something like that. If you're working at night or you're rotating shifts, you may work nights one week and then days one week and then mid-shift one week. That's not good for your circadian rhythms. And we'll look at that on the last page. But what it does is it disturbs those, and then you get to feeling tired when you're supposed to be awake. Or you have trouble sleeping during the day. If you're working midnight to 7, you have to sleep during the day, and then your circadian rhythms are messed up and you can't go to sleep, so that makes you extra tired. And so what you want to do is to limit your exposure to sunlight when you need to rest, because sunlight stimulates that serotonin in your brain, and that's going to keep you awake, or the dopamine. You need to make your room dark, which stimulates melatonin, which is the hormone that makes you go to sleep, and make it quiet and cool. It's hard to sleep, difficult to sleep when you're too hot. So you want to sleep in a cold room. You can take supplements like melatonin. I mentioned that that's all natural. They have it at the store, gummies or an oral form you can take. Even for young children, they make supplements of melatonin specifically for children to help them to be able to sleep. Sometimes you could be allergic to different foods, and that will make you sleepy. You eat a meal and it intensifies your fatigue. You get really tired after you've eaten that meal, and then you're intolerant to something that's there. Your body cannot process that food. So sometimes if you start to eliminate those foods one at a time, and then see if your fatigue improves. And that way you'll know which one of those foods is triggering that fatigue, and you can stop or eliminate that from your diet. These two we're going to look at in detail at the end, but chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. And to be diagnosed with either one of these, you have to have extreme fatigue that lasts for more than 6 months, and it's severe enough that you can't even do your daily activities. So those are diseases or disorders, and we'll look at those in a minute. If you want a fast fix for mild fatigue, which you're just a little bit sleepy, it isn't linked to any medical condition. You don't have a heart problem. You don't have diabetes. You don't have those things, but you're still fatigued. The solution may be exercise. Exercise helps to boost your energy levels. You seem like it would be counterintuitive. You work out and then you get sleepy, but it doesn't happen that way. You work out and then you get energy. So if you do that about 3 times per week, you can help to fight the fatigue that you experience. A lot of people want to work out early in the day so that they get that boost of energy for the rest of the day. Some people work out at night and then they want to try to go to sleep, and they're too pumped up to go to sleep. So you can figure out the best time of day that you want to work out. So the 2 things we want to take a deeper look into are chronic fatigue. Chronic means it happens all the time, right? Chronic, if you have something that's chronic. I have a chronic cough. I cough all the time. So if you have chronic fatigue, or here's something else that they call chronic fatigue syndrome. This is the acronym, SEID. Systemic, that means over your whole body. Systemic exertion intolerance disease. You cannot overexert yourself or you become intolerant. You can't tolerate that amount of activity. So you may wake in the morning and you feel as though you have not slept at all. You're already fatigued when you wake up. Or you may be unable to function at work or be productive at home. Those are chronic fatigue symptoms.